Hi, I'm Bianca Cioti. I'm a global brand manager at Desperados in charge of experiential marketing.
And I'm Ankita Tobit. I'm a senior creative at We Are By, so basically client agency. And you'll be very surprised to know that a lot of our conversations revolve around beer and parties.
And honestly, some of those conversations are maybe not as cool as you might think, but most of them totally are, like the one that we will have today. Ankita, hit us with the agenda.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking to you about some very marketing things like our brand strategy, our consumers, our brand meets consumer interactivity, and how we define success for ourselves in a situation where we had nothing to compare it to.
Sounds very serious, but trust us, it will be a very fun presentation, so bear with us. Let's start with the beginning. What is beer and tequila?
Beer and tequila equals questionable decisions.
No, we said we won't say that.
Okay, sorry. I mean, let me copyright that for you. Beer and tequila equals playful experimentation.
That's true. We are a party brand, and as a party brand, we aim to push party culture forward through playful experimentation. Basically, what that means for us is that we throw amazing acts, amazing parties in different parts of the world. That's the thing that you have to just remember about Desperados. From indoor parties to outdoor parties, or parties under the water with Peggy Goo. She was really cool back then, and she's still cool actually, but back then she wasn't as popular. Parties in the air, because why not? You've named it, we've thrown it. So basically for us, if it's
not fun, it won't run.
That's our motto. Anyway, things were great. Life was awesome. Everything was going according to our plans. You know how it is. But then something happened. The pandemic hit us, and lockdown swept the world. Our plans, which involved a lot of in real life consumer interaction, were completely derailed.
And the planet's vibe, completely dead. But strategy is strategy, you know? We stick to that shit.
So we did what we had to do. We opened the Desperados, we put our party pants on, we prayed to the party gods, and we started to party virtually. And this is exactly why we're here today with you, to talk about how a year in lockdown accelerated, to put it nicely, but actually forced us, to put it plainly, to get creative about our brand meets consumer strategy.
So what better way to demonstrate that than to get you to do something right now? Take out your phone if it isn't already in your hand. I know you're addicted. Anyway, pull out your phone, go to the App Store, type Rave to save, and then hit download. I know it's a super shameless plug, but it's for a good cause, and we'll tell you exactly what that is in a bit.
So you can forget a bit about it until it downloads. And we'll go back to what's important. Consumers, am I right? We hear that the more specific you get when you're defining your target audience, the better. And we really got specific at Desperados with ours. Basically, it's anybody that loves beer and partying. Dancing, partying, having a good time. It can be anybody between the ages of 18 and 180. I hope it's a lot of you at home. It's definitely me, and it's for sure Ankita. You'll see a bit later in the presentation. She's not dancing, but she will show you that. Despite the pandemic, we had something covered, which was the beer. We had plenty of Desperados. But the dancing, not so much. And then we also had the big question: how can you shift your plans, which are based on in real life consumer interaction, and how can you move them to online consumer interaction? And more importantly, how can you create meaningful brand connections with your consumers? Are you bombing my presentation? Meaningful connections with your consumers when they cannot even create meaningful connections with each other unless completely sanitized, masked, and socially distancing. And honestly, how can you make them to dance when they are in their houses alone, they have been there for a while, and they will be there until God knows when? And what are they even dancing for? Tell us, please.
So, with all the events being cancelled, we knew that the world really needed a party. Loneliness and depression were at an all-time high. And history shows us that when the world is in chaos and things are going bad, people tend to recklessly chase happiness anywhere they can. And they do that at parties. Let's be honest, what better place than to go completely forget all your problems than in a crowd of completely sweaty people? It's amazing. And our consumers at home, they were languishing over there, crawling deeper and deeper into the internet. So we had to get super creative, and let us show you how creative we actually got.
We started with live streams, and it all started in March 2020 when the lockdown just started, and we got a call from our partners at Elro, and they were saying, we have no parties for the next 3 months, they said back then, but we actually have a great idea. Let's do virtual parties. And I was like, what are virtual parties? But hey, we are a brand that's all about playful experimentation, so let's try. What's the harm in that? So we tried. We started with very fun live streams, with DJs spinning their hottest tunes from their bedrooms, and people at home tuning in at respectable volumes so that their neighbors won't complain. And they really embraced it. They loved it. It was an escape from everything else that was happening in life, and from all of the news that they were hearing about, and from all of the personal fears that they were having, and all of that depression that Ankita was talking about. And what we didn't realize before starting this journey is that virtual parties gave us a lot of scale. Yes, they are not as tangible as physical parties. Maybe they don't build the same connection that you can build with your audience at a physical party, but they sure gave us scale. 1 million people tuning in for your physical party, it's quite impossible. But 1 million people joining you for a virtual party, it's really probable, and it actually did happen for us. And then we realized that in normal times, it's really hard to get consumers to adopt an innovation that requires deep behavioral change. But we were not living normal times. Now everybody with an internet connection tuned in last year at least for one virtual party. Even if they liked it or not, they still tuned in and tried to experience it.
But the internet is a crowded place. For every piece of branded content out there, there's a million pieces of unbranded content that, let's be honest, a consumer would much rather watch.
So we had to get even more creative. We took things up a notch. We started differentiating our content from everything that was on the internet. We traveled to different places in Europe, to Ibiza, to different caves. We even traveled to the Dracula castle in Transylvania and partied with Dracula for Halloween there. We then hosted Zoom rooms with our audience and our consumers to make sure that we foster interaction between each other and we make them dance together, even though they're separated from their living room. We were saying party on, party safe. Content was king, and we were really doing it well. But we realized that interactive content is the new boss in town. So then we went even deeper into the corners of the internet and really playfully experimented with virtual reality and with the most high-tech corners of partying. And you might say that virtual reality is for the geeks one, but I can tell you I've tried it. I don't look like a geek person, I think, so I really loved it. And also signing off our first virtual reality bar, the first bottle, and dancing with people from all around the world and seeing the DJ in front of you during the pandemic was something really unique. And
it was really awesome.
It was really awesome. It really worked. In general, things were working out for us. We kept things simple and fun, improved with each experience that we were doing, and we were playfully experimenting the way we're interacting with our consumers. And what's really crazy is that probably we wouldn't have ventured so deep into the corners of the internet and the digital side of consumer interaction if the pandemic wouldn't have forced us to. But other people and other brands were also following the trend. So we've had to further differentiate, and we were using technology in order to do that. But honestly, it still felt a bit hollow. And we really wanted to make sure that our consumers are dancing with us and they're partying with us and they have that feeling of togetherness that we were really trying to offer. So we realized that the next thing that we wanted for our brand and for us in this journey is to move to purposeful interactivity. So what's the purpose of partying anyway?
This is my favorite part of this presentation. Okay, what is the purpose of nightclubs and partying? Let me tell you. Nightclubs are spaces of evolving human culture, and everyone that enters these spaces contributes to that culture in unspoken ways. These are the spaces that people go to playfully experiment with their internal and external selves. It's where the most diverse spectrum of human originality thrives. Pro tip, if you're going to a club, the queerer, the better. These spaces are precious because they're the only places we can go to dance, forget our problems, melt into an amazingly large crowd, listen to some good music, and forget everything else in the world. And if you go to Berghain, then you're going to forget everything for like maybe the next few days. Now, the clubs and bars our audience would go to usually weren't just shut, they were shutting down for good. COVID had absolutely decimated their finances. And our audience, they tried to help out wherever they could. They tried to attend some of these events, donate a little bit here and there to fundraisers, but our audience as well was suffering the impact of COVID, both financially and emotionally. We knew we had to save rave culture, but we also had to do it in a way that felt super authentic to our ravers. That brings us to raving. Our ancestors did it, and our descendants will do the same. If you've ever been raving, you know that gathering together in the same location, surrounded by hundreds of people, losing themselves to the music, sweating all around you, is a very, very special thing. On a good night out, you'll hear the phrase, "I danced my ass off." And we had to ask ourselves, how much do ravers really dance? We did a lot of studies, and the answer is a lot. So when you sign up for a marathon, the donations are usually collected through registration. So you sign up, and regardless of whether you finished the race, or you came first, or you dropped out, you've made a donation. And one marathon equals 58,000 steps. On the 22nd of October in 2017, I did 41,676 steps at a completely different type of marathon without any training. It was my first Amsterdam dance event, and trust me, that shit was wild.
Told you she's a party animal.
I really felt like I deserved a medal after it. And that feeling of accomplishment was exactly what we wanted to transmit to our audience when they did whatever we asked them to do. So that's how we came up with Rave to Save, the world's first ever dance-powered fundraising app. That's right, baby, we just gave partying a purpose. The more you dance, the more money you raise to save your favorite clubs. For every 100 moves you dance at home, Desperados would donate €1 on your behalf to that club.
You can also splash some of your own cash if you wanted, because we wanted to give clubs as much support as possible.
Sorry, just blanked out. At the end of the session, people would also get a Rave report, which was a shareable for, it aggregated their stats on social media and allowed them to share it.
And you are a dance demon.
And I am a dance demon. Rave to Save is a legit gamified fundraising experience. It was designed for a hyper-engaged crew, and the best part, it has a real-world payoff.
Nice.
From pitch to launch, it took us 4 months to create and push out this whole app. Record time. Honestly, on a normal day, I don't think she would have let us push this idea out in 4 months. But the thing is,
I regret it even now.
The thing is, we knew that the world was in chaos, and we didn't know when anything was going to open up. What we did know was clubs were still shut, and we had to save them.
Now, that brings us back to our audience. We knew that they are the cool type, right? The type that loves to party, loves to go out. They know about all of the new things. They are the coolest, vibiest, funnest audience that you can have, but they are also extremely demanding. They want only cool content and will accept nothing else. So also, they can be at home with nothing else to do, and they will not hesitate to penalize you for anything that might feel off. So we knew that for this type of audience, just doing our app was not enough. We also had to have the hottest lineup with the biggest DJs spinning their hottest records in order to make people dance as much as possible. And we also had to always remind them, what are they dancing for? We were throwing the parties from the clubs that we were trying to save, and the DJs were also engaging their community in social and also during the live stream to foster a bit more the interactivity between the cause and the consumer at home. And then the next steps came pretty simple. We had to get the right people on board, the right party creators, the right influencers, the right media partners, people that other people trust. Because believe it or not, especially during this time, the world doesn't revolve around your brand. So we realized that in order to be successful, we had to take the back seat for our brand. So our brand took the back seat, and we had to let the cause prevail. Therefore, we told our story through the experience that was happening during the live stream, through the artists, through the venue that we were trying to save, and through PR.
So we decided to launch our app in the clubbing capital of the world, Berlin. And one would expect that a place with such a huge rave culture, this idea would fly. No, the path to success was a long one. We learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes success is just sucking less. We made so many mistakes along the way because we didn't even have time to think. I mean, from app glitches to app store rejections to DJs pulling out last minute to streaming issues, you name the problem, we had it. Now, you should also remember when you're doing something like this to give yourself enough time. Like geniuses, we decided we're going to throw 4 parties in a row, one after the other. That gave us barely enough time to get over our hangover before we went to the next one. But I guess it all paid off because the results, 8 million streams, 1 million engagements, 5 million steps danced, 55,000 euros raised, 5K users on our app, and 4 clubs saved. We failed multiple times before getting it right, and we realized that sometimes you don't need one big wow, but a series of smaller wows to get your brand going, I guess. In the future, you could be raving to save music culture, mental health, the planet, anything. To conclude, this is not a success story yet. We're going to keep exploring the uncharted waters of dance-powered fundraising, and hopefully you'll get to see where we get to.
So until then, we still have 2 clubs that need our support, Club Prince Charles and Heineken Fuchs in Germany. We've reopened the events for you, so you can dance at home and hope and dance with us and help raise money for these causes. For every 100 steps that you will do, we will donate €1. So you can also dance while we answer the questions.
Yeah, please demo it, ask us some questions. We're super excited.
Thank you.
Interesting. First, a quick little personal story there. Desperados had an impact on me as well. My favorite festival in Amsterdam of the year is Open Air. And Desperados sponsored a small stage there on the water, and it was the Happy Feeling stage. It's now 6 years ago, and we didn't know who they were. My wife and I were kind of the old people at the festival, if you ever see us. And we're like, we love these people. They're and now we're going to support them, and now we're bucket hat sort of sponsors of them in the tough times as well. And it started on the Desperados stage, and now we're super Happy Feelings fans. So thank you for introducing us to a DJ collective that we love now.
Awesome. Happy for your experience.
Yeah, it was super cool. Okay, so, it's not a success story yet. Okay, it's a tough one. I mean, you guys obviously have, every punch, thrown at you. A social beer brand hurt without social contact. A club-based dancing-focused brand with no dancing. So you tried it, you attempted, you had success at it. What are the lessons that apply for when things open up again? I mean, is this going to be just a weird chapter in the past, or have you learned stuff that will apply when things open?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I can talk a lot about this. Actually, we don't feel that virtual partying and we don't think this is part of the past. This is actually part of the future. So there are so many benefits to virtual partying and also to our purposeful idea, the dance-powered fundraising app, that we will definitely take this with us in the future. And we really believe that the future is in hybrid events. There will be gatherings with in real life people, physical events that are extremely important culturally, but they will be more and more events live streamed over the internet and reaching audiences. So we've learned a lot about the technology and what does it take in order to have a successful live stream and to basically appeal to the online audience, and what do you need to do in that environment, because it's quite specific versus the physical parties that we were throwing. So
But I believe that the technology can be sorted out, but are people going to be dancing alone at home once the pandemic is over?
You can actually use the app even in public. You don't have to only use it alone at home. So I'll just let your imagination take that wherever it will.
yeah, we're planning to use the app also at physical parties, because you can still dance. If not for clubs, that hopefully they will survive, you can still dance for other causes. So we still want to really plug in this feature, because in the end our consumers are at parties with their phones in their pocket. So just counting their steps and allocating a monetary value to that is something that can be easily done. And now, back to your questions, are consumers going to be at home dancing? We think so, because many times you can have an amazing experience at a festival, but there are a limited number of tickets, like Tomorrowland, for example. You cannot, it's really hard to get to those experiences. So they could appeal to the international broader audience, and and for sure I think they will do that, and people will start doing their smaller parties in their houses or in bars even, to party with people that are actually at those venues. And this model, we call it hybrid. Like in the future, I think that people will also party at home and with content that it will be live streamed from the physical parties.
And, okay, that's good. So the lockdown obviously changed the way that consumers, and brands interact. Can you go a little bit farther on that? So, okay, so taking the app into the real world, great. Dancing steps, fundraising, that sounds great. What lessons can other brands take away from the pandemic that you might have learned in the pandemic?
I would say stick to your strategy. Like if our strategy wasn't playful experimentation, we might have done something else. But just the fact that that's in our brand's DNA, the fact that we would take a crazy idea like this and go to our client, and even our client is like, okay, that's part of our brand's DNA, might as well try it out. Depending on what your brand is all about, follow it, because there's a reason that people came up with these strategies. They usually come up with after a lot of research, so it makes sense to stick to it.
I would lean towards the same idea, because I feel that even in the party industry, a lot of brands that are usually activating in the party territory, sponsoring festivals and so on, they really went away from it and they took a new turn. So what we thought to do is like, let's drift, let's continue with what we're doing in a new, innovative way, and let's see where that takes us. And that really helped us to differentiate versus others that stopped from their current strategy. And for sure now they will go back and everybody's trying to support that. But when everything started in March, we really stick to our strategy. As Ankita said, and we said, we're a party brand, we will continue to party in this new reality.
So then, okay, hybrid is one trend that you guys mentioned, but what's going to happen for festivals and parties? What's going to happen in the short term? Events, festivals, and parties. You're on the inside here. What are you expecting? We have some summer festivals, testing, vaccines. Help us out. What's going to happen?
For sure, we will start with smaller parties at the beginning with most probably outdoor parties, and then we will move to indoor parties.
Outdoor, sorry, you said?
Outdoor, yeah. Outdoor parties, yeah. Then indoor, there will be, I think in the future, of course, also allowed for people that are vaccinated, more parties for people that are vaccinated. But honestly, we took so many guesses throughout the process, and we felt so many times in being right that it's really hard now to say this.
We're planning everything now. We're planning every single permutation and combination of what could happen. But I will say there are already so many test parties happening around Amsterdam, around a bunch of other places.
Meaning underground parties?
No. Like real test parties. In fact, someone I know just...
Saturday, Shelter.
Yeah, I was so jealous. I
didn't get picked either. I'm like,
let's go together. Let's go together. We'll just stand there and be like, let us in.
Yeah. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt though. So there are parties like that, test lab parties.
So we're trying to be as optimistic as possible. There's been quite a few parties. I think there's one with around 26,000 people or 56,000 people, and only 20 or 30 got COVID at the end of it. So those are great numbers. So very
For example,
optimistic.
our partner Elro, what's doing is that instead of concentrating all of their audience in one day, they're dividing it across 2 days so that they can have the same experience for the same amount of people, but divided on 2 days. So I think each one will find their own path, what works for them. And we'll be there in the journey for sure.
Okay, and can we test people at festivals to get people in? Is that going to happen, or are we just going to have to open the doors and hope for the best?
Or
I think there will be a lot of testing, actually. That's the only way to keep it safe.
I think so, but have you done a COVID test yourself at home?
I've done too
Yeah.
many.
No, at home, I mean yourself?
Yeah.
Because it's not, I mean, it takes a bit of
Legit,
effort. You know, you need a table that doesn't wobble, and I mean, if you're going to test, 20,000 people, I mean, I don't know physically, even though the government's going to pay for it, it seems like it's the answer. I just literally don't imagine how that's going to happen.
I think it's also up to people to make sure that they stay safe and, not infect the people around them. If you're feeling sick, please don't go. We want to party, so please don't get everyone else sick.
in the same time, I think that when you look at traveling, a lot of people are volunteering and testing themselves in order to travel. So of course, if you also want to be at a party, you might also adhere to the rules and get yourself an official test and not do it at home. So I think each club and each country will have their own regulations depending on which phase of COVID they will be. And we'll just have to see.
Just have to see. Perfect. Thank you for that. We'll leave it there. And it was a very nice presentation.
Thank
Thank you.